Yo, hey guys, what's up? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the channel. This is No Huddle Fantasy Sports, and this is the Week 5 sneak peek video here on the channel. Today is Tuesday, October 6, 2020. Of course, we're wrapping up or have already wrapped up Week 4 of the NFL season. It was an excellent Week 4 of football, excellent for DFS, excellent just for viewers in general. A lot of great games there, a lot of great games from a DFS perspective too. And of course, we're talking Monday Night Football. We had 2 games, a doubleheader. I really enjoyed that, starting at 7 o'clock, at least if you're on the East Coast. You had football twice on Monday night. I think that's much better. I don't think a lot of people would argue with this. I think they should just get rid of Thursday Night Football and make Monday a doubleheader. It was definitely enjoyable from that perspective. But overall, Week 4 was excellent. Go back to the video, the more detailed video, if you want to check it out from a DFS perspective. Gave out a lot of great plays. I mean, everybody that we had given out, for the most part, I mean, we're not going to get everything right, but in general, the lower owned plays were absolutely excellent. We went back to Cook, that was great. We went with Diggs and Josh Allen, that was great. I had limited exposure to Dak Prescott. He unfortunately was higher initially, and I talked myself down on him. But overall, still had some Dak Prescott lineups, and those even went off. So a lot of good plays there. Go back, check it out. I won't spend too much time here. So far, the first few weeks of the season, really weeks 2, 3, and 4 have been great for this channel, for No Huddle Fantasy Sports, for the picks that we've given out, all that great stuff. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're part of this group, because we give out great stuff every single week. We put the time in, we put the research in, and we share it with you guys. So make sure you are subscribed. Give these videos a like, but you're here for Week 5 because this is the sneak peek video. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. Of course, a disclaimer, as always, is that I've done nothing yet. We're going to dive in for the first time. We are going to look at players, look at pricing, talk about some of the matchups that stick out right from the beginning. It's Tuesday. This stuff's going to be more refined, narrowed down as the week goes on. I mean, a lot of these plays I talk about, we might not even have in our lineups, but in general, it's always fun. You guys enjoy it to kind of look for the first time at FanDuel here, dive into the platform and talk plays. And so with that, let's start doing it. Let's pick a random contest here. Might as well go with the $1 million contest because, hey, why not? I will say from a betting perspective, from a Vegas perspective, early on, some games aren't out yet, but there are, I think, 5 games on the main slate here projected above 50 for a over or under. In general, if you compare that to Week 4, that's not as many. So might see a lower scoring week. I think there's some definite great spots to attack from a DFS perspective. But we'll talk about all that as the week goes on. So let's start with the quarterback position. As we always do, we'll talk matchups. In general, there's teams. We're starting to see it play out. You like to attack the Jets. Of course, the Dallas secondary and defense is absolutely horrendous. You want to attack Dallas. You want to play Dak Prescott basically versus anyone because they are the fastest team in the league in terms of running plays by a good margin. They get a lot of plays off, and I think they're at a 65 to 35, whatever that comes out to, split between pass and run. So always a good play. He's going to throw the ball a lot. Those are teams you want to attack. So starting there, you can see right from the get-go, it looks like a lot of these main plays, a lot of these guys we've been going back to the well with are priced up. Patrick Mahomes at $9,000 versus Las Vegas. I do like that play. It's very expensive. I typically don't pay up for the most expensive quarterback. The strategy has not lended itself that way this year, but definitely Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he is what he is. Hopefully the stats for him, we're recording this just after the games here. So yeah, we do have versus New England, had 20 points, didn't look very good in the early part of the game. Probably his floor here we saw against New England. Of course, New England is New England. They're a Bill Belichick defense. They get the job done. He really didn't put up points until the second half. Nonetheless, always a great play. Has some rushing upside. You can see 8 total attempts here. But $9,000, I don't know if that stands out to me early on. Las Vegas is a bottom 5 team versus the pass. Definitely a team you can attack through the air. I'm probably at home more interested in CEH for the running back position. We'll talk about that as we get there. But in general, definitely an okay play. Cash game viable, $9,000. Just under him, $100 cheaper, is Lamar Jackson. Same spot as last week, other than the fact he's playing at home. Massive favorites right now, I think minus 13.5 versus Cincinnati at home. Cincinnati is not a good team. Their offense, Joe Burrow looks good, but their offensive line is bad versus an elite Baltimore defense. So why does that scare you? Well, a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, like really anyone, is not going to throw the ball a ton in these matchups. They're going to go up big. They should very quickly go up big versus this team, especially at home. He still got rushes last week, though. It's like I said, they were 10, 12-point favorites versus Washington on the road. He still ran the ball, had a big run. I don't know if it was in the second half, but I think like literally 50 of these 53 yards came on one rush. So in general, I don't know, again, if I'm going to spend this high on him, being that he's such a big favorite, but always in play with the rushing upside. Gives him a solid floor, really, and then the upside comes from his ability to pass. Dak Prescott, I mentioned it again, versus Cleveland. A lot of people talking about Cleveland had turned the corner, and I'm mentioning specific people in this video. They have not. They are a bad defense. They cannot stop the run. They cannot stop the pass. The difference in that game, of course, was Dallas cannot stop a soul on defense, so they trail a lot, which is what you want out of a quarterback. It was scary playing him at home. That's why I talked myself down on him last week. He's one of my top 4 quarterbacks. Ended up being my 4th because, hey, he was at home. I wanted to go more Elliott. Didn't work out that way, but it still helped us having exposure to him. Nonetheless, 2 games with nearly 60 attempts in a row. Has had 450-plus yards, including a 500-yard game versus Cleveland. Doesn't give you much on the ground, but has run the ball several times this year already. This is an anomaly. I think the 3 rushing touchdowns, you cannot count on that. But I think you can count on, from a FanDuel perspective, numbers that are very similar to 400-plus week in and week out. Always a good play. Playing at home this week versus, I would say, a pretty weak New York Giants team. I'm, again, probably going to favor Elliott in this matchup more than anyone. As a result, I'll be lower on Dak. But, again, he's priced up at $8,700. Only $3,000 cheaper than Mahomes. But this guy has the volume, has the yardage. They're trailing constantly with that defense. They're now in a really good matchup, I would say. From Dallas's perspective, they should win this game, of course. I thought that would be the case with Cleveland. It didn't end up that way, so I don't mind him at all at that price. But again, I don't like to pay up. Now you're saving some money as we come down. Now we're about $600 cheaper to go to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is my man. I like playing him every single week. I like playing guys with the rushing upside, and Josh Allen gives you that week in and week out. He was lower owned. He was my number 1 quarterback in week 3. It worked out very well. Of course, Dak was better, but in general, Josh Allen gives you a ton of upside with a solid floor. Didn't hit 300 yards for the first time this year, but they really had their way with Las Vegas. Still had a rushing touchdown. Didn't give you much on the ground, which I think is going to be kind of his lower spot from a rushing perspective versus a team they really crushed there. But he's on the road again in Tennessee. I like attacking Tennessee. They're not a good defense by any means. They're really bad against the run, in my opinion. I think they're a bottom-tier run team. A little bit better versus the pass, but still a team you can attack. And Josh Allen is kind of matchup-proof at this point. Throwing the ball a decent amount. Not hitting that 40 burger like he did early in the year, 40+, but I think you can expect 35 passing attempts. 300 yards is in play. The offense, of course, everything runs through him. They're banged up at running back. I do like Josh Allen at this price at $8,400. Definitely an interest of mine. And just under him, another $100 cheaper. Also, by the way, he's on the road. That is something I always favor for quarterbacks. We talk about it every week, especially in the in-depth videos. So $8,400 versus a Tennessee team that isn't that great, in my opinion. We saw, from a rushing perspective, they cannot stop anyone. We saw Dalvin Cook, I believe, on the road in Tennessee. Was that the game he put up 180 yards? I can't recall. We don't have stats for this video. We're just talking out loud here. But nonetheless, Josh Allen has a great opportunity against this Tennessee team. Kyler Murray, really not playing well this year, to be perfectly honest with you. From a non-fantasy perspective, from a, perspective of how he's playing in general, Cardinals are not looking good. He is not looking very good. This is what's saving him. This is what makes him fantasy relevant. He has 78 yards, 29 yards, 67 yards, 91 yards on the ground, a minimum of 5 rushing attempts. Every time he rushes the ball, these aren't typical, he's just escaping the pocket, getting a yard. This guy has designed runs. He has 4 touchdowns in 4 games. He did fumble in the last game, threw 3 touchdowns, but only 133 yards. I do think that is probably his floor. I don't think you're going to see in that type of offense where they throw the ball that much and they're trailing a lot. Their defense isn't great. I think I think that's going to be his floor. But nonetheless, this is what we're after here. We want 5 to 10 attempts on the ground, 50 to 75 rushing yards. Hopefully throws for above 200, multiple touchdowns. I think this is a great play on the road, and it's a good matchup versus the New York Jets. The Jets are one of the worst teams, one of the worst secondaries. They're very, very banged up. I do like the spot for Kyler Murray here at $8,300, but everyone's priced up. You can see that's only $700 difference than Mahomes, so it's a tough week right now looking at it. But definitely early, I like the Allen, the Murray area. I think that looks good. Deshaun Watson, that team just does not look good. I'm more interested against Jacksonville in the run, especially at home. A little bit cheaper here. Matt Ryan versus Carolina, definitely in play at $7,700. Now we're starting to save some money. This is from an early set, looks very good. From the pricing, let's see here. Really bad game. If you watched the games last night, that game was not good. I will say he had basically, I would call him vultured. Who was it? Todd Gurley, the running back. He was not good. I mean, I don't care who wants to argue with me. Todd Gurley is not a good running back anymore. He just, plots his feet and runs 4 yards. They drove down several times, gave the ball to Todd Gurley. When they were trailing by a lot, he got the touchdown. So as a result, his game was not good. 12 total points. I think, again, we're talking floors here. That's your floor. This team's going to throw the ball 40 times a game. They're going to trail. They don't have a good defense. They have elite weapons on the outside. I mean, Calvin Ridley did not have a catch. That's an anomaly versus Green Bay. So I do like this price on him. The matchup here, if we go back to his summary versus Carolina, Carolina very, very bad versus the rush. But again, I don't think Matt Ryan's team, I don't think Atlanta is really good at running the ball right now, even with Todd Gurley. I'm more interested in them passing the ball. But nonetheless, Carolina's defense is not good in general. I think you can throw all over them too. They just have seen teams run down their throat. I think this will be the opposite here. Matt Ryan playing at home, in the dome, indoors, versus a bad Carolina team. I like that for $7,700 for sure early on. Big Ben, I would like him versus Philly. Philly's secondary, again, not a very good team, not a very good secondary. $7,400 is a great price, but they might be favored by 10 or more. I'm not going to waste the time to go check, but I think I'm more interested in the run game for Pittsburgh, but Big Ben at home, always in play. I guess if you want to come way down the list here, looking at some of these prices, probably the lowest I'll go in this particular video will be Daniel Jones. Not a great year for Daniel Jones. Not a great year for New York Giants. We saw in 2019, Daniel Jones had a couple good games. He has looked good at certain points. They're throwing the ball. They're trailing a lot. They don't have Saquon Barkley to establish the run. They're running Devontae Freeman and other backs. Who knows how that backfield will shape up. Nonetheless, the matchup here is what we're talking about. You've seen time and time again the Dallas Cowboys give up ridiculous yardage. They look so bad versus Cleveland. The fourth down, they had a chance to get a stop. I don't know if it was fourth down, maybe second or third down. End of the game, they had a chance to get a stop, put their offense back on the field, maybe tie the game, win the game, whatever it would be. And there was an end around for the second time by Odell Beckham, and they didn't even make an attempt. I mean, they had a 10-yard loss on him, and they just didn't try to tackle him. So my point is, the Giants in general, Daniel Jones, if you want to spend way down here, I don't know if I'll do it yet, but as an early look, Daniel Jones against that Dallas team, if he has his weapons in play, I don't mind that early on. Moving over to running back, let's talk some of these teams. So I talked about Carolina. Carolina is a team you want to attack on the ground. Tennessee, I believe, is a team that you can attack on the ground. The Giants are a team you can attack on the ground. Las Vegas, a team that you can attack on the ground. These are all teams that rank bottom 10, if not bottom 5 versus the rush. They're graded really bad from Pro Football Focus. So I think it's a good spot this week versus a lot of these teams. So we'll start with pricing. I'm again on Ezekiel Elliott. He did not have a bad game. If anybody wants to comment on that, he had a touchdown vulture. Pollard came in, scored the one touchdown that went to the running backs. 12 attempts, 54 yards. They had their way with Cleveland on the ground. He had 8 receptions for 71 yards, 16 points. Again, you're talking a running back. Just play Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, he's $9,000. It's very expensive. He's the same price as Patrick Mahomes, but I do think Ezekiel Elliott in a good spot. Let's throw him in the lineup. Let's build a lineup as we go here. I mentioned a couple of these guys. We'll go with Matt Ryan at 7,700. I think that's a good price for him in the matchup here. So we do like Elliott versus the Giants. We've seen backup running backs for the Steelers, for example, have their way. Benny Snell Jr. versus the Giants, and that guy never saw the field again after that. So Giants, definitely a team you can't attack on the ground. Dallas, a team that should run the ball very well. I will say I believe their center is missing, so something to look into as the week goes on, how healthy that O-line is, but nonetheless, I still think it's a good home matchup for Ezekiel Elliott. Derrick Henry, Buffalo surprisingly not very good this year versus the run. I don't know. I don't know if I'll go there yet. Derrick Henry is very expensive at $8,600, gets ridiculous amount of usage. You can certainly go there if you're comfortable. We'll talk about that later in the week. I mean, the numbers are what the numbers are. Nobody is getting the carries that he's getting. Not very much usage through the passing game. I think Buffalo's going to win this game, so it'll be interesting how I end up with Derrick Henry. Right now, I'm avoiding that. Not actually avoiding it, but I just don't want to talk on Derrick Henry at this point. I don't like Josh Jacobs really ever on the road. Similar deal, doesn't catch the ball a lot. Nick Chubb out, very sad story there. That is their best player, in my opinion. MCL, though, so I think it's not that bad. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, I talked about him. CEH for Kansas City versus Las Vegas. I like this play. $7,900. Has looked very good, in my opinion. Just at times, I don't know. They throw the ball a lot. That's kind of what it is. We want 25. We want 20 attempts. He gets usage in the passing game at times. He catches screens. He's on the field a lot. His usage is up. His snap counts are really high, elite level snap counts. I do like him versus Las Vegas. Las Vegas, a team that cannot stop the run or is not very good versus the run. Now they're on the road in Kansas City. Kansas City's team is high octane, everything you want out of an offense. I really like that play. So it's going to get expensive, but we're going to throw him in there at $7,900. Definitely not playing Sanders in Pittsburgh, at least not right now, not against that team. Jonathan Taylor is interesting, although he's on the road in Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland is very good against the run. You saw it last week. It's just that Dallas trailed so much they went to the air. But in general, you want to see more attempts. You want to see a better performance. He didn't do very well versus Chicago. I think Chicago is light years ahead of that Cleveland team. I don't mind him early, but I'm not going there for the simple fact he's on the road here. I believe Indianapolis is a favorite on the road, so that does help. They have a great offensive line, all those things you want. Jonathan Taylor, definitely a consideration early on. The other guy I like in this range, so Kareem Hunt versus Indy, I'm not going there yet. He is going to be the guy in that backfield to own, though. James Conner, $7,000 for Pittsburgh versus Philly. I do like that spot for him. They are huge favorites. I talked about it already with Big Ben. I think minus 10, if not more right now. Has looked really good since that week 1 debacle with injury and whatnot. Catches the ball, plays a lot of snaps, is not threatened in the backfield from any other player. $7,000. Philly is not good. They're banged up on defense. They're banged up on offense. They should trail. This should be a James Conner day for sure at home versus Pittsburgh, or for Pittsburgh versus Philly. I like James Conner's price. Joe Mixon finally had a crazy game. We can talk about that very briefly. 3 touchdowns. That's probably the reason we didn't do astronomically well week 3. Didn't have any exposure to Joe Mixon. I didn't even talk about him, let alone consider him. So 3 total touchdowns. Great day if you played him, man. Coming back down, not playing him versus Baltimore. Mike Davis. I don't know why. I just keep avoiding him, but he's definitely in play at $6,800. He is that guy in Carolina's backfield to own. Talked about how much I hate Todd Gurley, so we won't go there, but he's definitely in play. I think he's in play. Wish the price was lower. Carolina's defense, a team that cannot stop the run, but I'm playing Matt Ryan, so I will not go with Todd Gurley. James Robinson, I do like that play versus Houston. Houston pretty bad versus the run. We're going to avoid it for now because he is on the road, but definitely in play. I like David Johnson's price, $6,400. Not a great year for him. Doesn't look like the old David Johnson. I'm not expecting any of that, but a good price on him at home versus Jacksonville that just got torched through the air and on the ground by Joe Mixon. So definitely David Johnson in play. Might have to go there. I only have $5,600 here to play with. Some of these other guys, I guess you can go Jerick McKinnon, depending on injury situations in that backfield for San Francisco. Has looked pretty good, scored a touchdown in every single game. Kenyon Drake here, big letdown. If you're in season long, I have a lot of him in season long. We'll see how that shapes up, but if you could consider him, $6,200, just not getting any usage in the passing game. Here's his teammate, just a couple $100 cheaper, who's getting all the usage in the passing game. Gibson, no. I think that's it for an early look at running back. Those are some of the guys I'm interested in. Coming over to wide receiver, of course, Calvin Ridley, still really expensive, did not catch the ball once last night, which is remarkable. Had 5 targets, didn't catch the ball. I don't know how that happens, but it did. Julio Jones looked good. He's much cheaper. Oh, man, did he get injured again? I didn't finish watching that game. He didn't look that good. So, really weird situation there. Let's throw Calvin Ridley in and see if anything helps, or if that helps. Let's pick a random defense to try to help out with our pricing here and see what we can fit. Okay, back to wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously the usage for him, great spot versus the Jets. I definitely like that spot versus the Jets. Jets secondary really bad. Same reason I like Murray is the same reason I like Hopkins. I mean, that's his floor, 9 targets. You'll take that every single day. Had a lot of catches, just didn't do much with it last week. Played a lot of him, honestly. That did hurt some lineups, but I'm definitely interested in him for sure, even though he's nearly $9,000. Think about that. Elliott, Mahomes, and DeAndre Hopkins are nearly all the same price. Moving on down here, all these guys typically in play, pair them with your quarterbacks. Tyreek Hill continues to excel. He excelled versus a really tough New England team that shuts down your best weapons. Still found the end zone, so definitely scores a touchdown in every single game. Definitely in play there. Juju Smith-Schuster for Pittsburgh. I'm probably not going there. Amari Cooper, though, versus the Giants. I like Amari every single week. Finally scored a touchdown. He's an elite weapon in an elite offense that throws the ball a ridiculous amount, plays a lot of plays in terms of they get off a lot of plays. 16 targets, definitely in play at $7,800. For this build, I don't know if we're going to be able to get there, but let's come down here. We saw Odell Beckham finally have a good game. It was against Dallas, of course. That is an example of where you can go with a lot of that. Stephon Diggs, continue to play him with Josh Allen, taking deep shots of Diggs left and right. You like that. I bet his average depth of target, and I bet his team air yards percentage is going to be way up once we dive into that later this week. Anything else that stands out? I do like DJ Moore on the road versus Atlanta. $6,600, a good price on him. Only 6 targets, but has upside. If you go him or go, who was the other one? Robbie Anderson is who I got mostly exposure to, and it worked out very, very well. I like both of them on the road in Atlanta. Somebody we got to come back to. So let's type that in. Let's go with Anderson. He's got to be cheaper here. Robbie Anderson, $6,200. We like to come back with a particular player on the other side of the ball. 11 targets. Let's add him for sure here. $5,000 left. It's going to be tough, but we will talk through some of these receivers as we go down the list here. We got to find somebody cheaper. A.J. Brown should be back this week versus Buffalo. Interesting, $6,500. We just don't know the situation. How many snaps, how he's feeling. Obviously, it's a knee issue for a wide receiver is always tough. But nonetheless, $6,500 could be cheap for him as we go forward. Elite receiver in my book, somebody that you definitely can play week to week in almost any matchup. Jameson Crowder, I like the spot for Crowder this week. Continues, even though I'm not playing him in season long because he's on my bench and I refuse to believe anything, continues to get all the targets from Darnold, continues to break 100 yards. Saw it last week, or saw it versus Denver. I do like him. I just, for this particular build, don't know if we'll be able to fit it. Arizona, a team you can attack through the air. Certainly a team you can do that with. Tyler Boyd caught a touchdown that got called back. Could have had a much bigger day. I had some exposure to him. Probably the receiver to own out of that Cincinnati team right now. Versus Baltimore, though, I don't know if I will go there yet. CeeDee Lamb looked really, really good versus the Giants. For Dallas versus Cleveland, a team you can attack through the air. So definitely interested in him at this price. Finally scored multiple touchdowns, actually. So coming back down the list here, guys that we can get exposure to. So Slayton is definitely the guy you want to own from this particular team, or from the Giants versus Dallas. I just, again, don't know. Let's throw him in. Let's see if we can make that happen. Definitely you want to take receivers versus Dallas, though, of course. Christian Kirk, a cheaper $5,600. Don't mind him. Looked decent this past week. Was one of the few guys that caught a touchdown from only 19 yards, but did catch a touchdown from Kyler Murray. Pricing, nothing really stands out way down here. A lot of these guys are washed up AJ Greens or guys that don't see the field. Too bad Shepard is remains on the IR here. One guy I didn't mention, a running back, Le'Veon Bell, will be back for the Jets. So monitor that situation. We'll talk about it later in the week as we find out more information. Let's bump over to tight end here. I know this video is dragging a little bit, but a lot of players to talk about. A lot of interest here for sure. We're going to have to find some value here at tight end, but nonetheless, your typical guys at the top here, always of interest. George Kittle looked great in week 4. Killed me in season long. Just being force-fed the ball. So definitely a guy, definitely of interest every single week versus Miami. Playing at home, though, I don't know if I can ever spend that much at tight end. It just doesn't happen often. Other guys, though, as we come down the list here, definitely consider $5,700 to pair with Matt Ryan. Looked decent. Again, guy that gets targets. I mean, that's basically it, and they throw the ball a lot. 6 total targets for a tight end at this price tag is pretty good. 51 yards. If he finds the end zone, it's even better. As we come down the list, Zach Ertz, Eric Ebron. What do we need? 42. I don't know if we don't even have enough. We're gonna have to build this out a little bit differently. We will throw Vance McDonald in just to make this work, but just to kind of highlight some of these guys. 2 guys in particular I want to talk about. Chris Herndon, giving up on him. $4,800, way too expensive, just is really bad. Logan Thomas, I've been chasing targets with him all season long. I'm sorry to you guys if you've taken the recommendation. I've tried to highlight that you shouldn't play him, but I will be. He is what legitimately did not help me exceed in week 3 there, week 4. I had like 50% exposure to him. Did still well overall, but come on, man. I'm done with him. Eric Ebron, if Deontay Johnson is still out, I have not checked the status on that. Definitely looking better, getting more targets in that offense for Pittsburgh. Good price on him for sure. Dalton Schultz got injured. We'll see how that shapes up. I had a lot of exposure to him as my number 2 tight end behind Logan Thomas. We talked about him in the video. Looked really good. For an offense that's throwing the ball a lot, he's getting a lot of targets. He actually looks good in that offense. $5,300 is a good price on him. Evan Ingram, another way you can attack that Dallas secondary. $5,500, I think is a good price on him. I talked about Hurts. And that's really it. I mean, then you go to the guys at the top. You don't need much explanation. These are basically wide receivers in the tight end position. So definitely always in play. We don't talk about defenses. We'll figure that out as the week goes on. But in general, I hope this video is helpful for you guys. It was nice to look at some of these salaries. I've already reserved my entries. I am pumped. I am ready for week 5. Let's continue to keep the ball rolling here. Let's continue to crush. I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments. Anybody I missed, anybody that's sticking out early, especially on FanDuel here. But, talk about DraftKings if you want to. Hopefully these videos, again, are helpful for you guys. So you get an idea. You get the mind thinking early in the week. That's the way to go. That's part of the strategy. Outside of that, if you guys are playing any DFS betting, doing it every during the week here, I wish you the best of luck. I'll catch you on Thursday when we put out the video related to the DraftKings Showdown. But besides that, good luck this week, and I'll catch you in the next video.